If you are a local business and you're thinking about launching a podcast, I want you to stop right now. I want to go through our 6-step process to launching a podcast in the right way. Now, it's by no means completely refined and there are many, many different ways of doing stuff, but I just want to give some guidelines. People run best on rails. They're like trains, okay? So I'm going to give you some rails in order for you to launch your podcast to make sure it's doing the right thing, you're talking to the right people, and you don't waste a lot of time, money, and effort in the process. So let's get into it. If you're new here and we haven't met before, my name's Craig. I'm here at the Urban Flux Studios. If you get any value from this video, make sure you subscribe to receive more. Okay, first thing I want to say is that what you see now has been through years of development. I started my first podcast about 10 years ago, and I've run a few successful podcasts in the run up to right now, where me and Carl launched this podcast in studio where we get people from all over in to record their podcast. So we've done this a few times, and I've got a few tips on things that I see work well and some things, to stay away from because the dog rubbish. Okay, so here it is, the 6 steps. We're going to walk through it bit by bit. So if you're preparing to launch your podcast, it's really easy to think, right, okay, I've got this great idea and, it feels like an amazing idea to me, so I'm just going to run with it. Now, the problem with that is it's exactly what I did with our most recent podcast. We thought, this is exactly what the people want to see. This is exactly what we want to do. Perfect fit. And actually, after we'd launched it, we saw not a lot of growth for the first 12 months. It took that long for us to dial in exactly what the people in our audience wanted to see and what would be effective. Now, by going through the process I'm going to teach you, you can cut out a lot of that. There is a bit of a learning phase for everybody that's launching a podcast, but you can reduce it quite a lot. So before you just go headlong, this is my idea, it's brilliant, I love it, it's got to work, okay, just take a step back. So the first thing I want you to consider, and by the way, we're going to create a little 1-page worksheet. We'll stick it in the description so you can download it in order for you to work through this, is the what. Just think about what you actually want your podcast to do. Now, this is going to be a great context as you work through and you actually plan everything else. Think about it. A podcast can do many, many things, from establishing you as an expert in your market or within your area, establishing you as a connector of people, maybe even building trust, and ultimately as well, generating leads or recruiting talent. There's so many things that a podcast can do. And me and Carl have had some amazing experiences and done some incredible things all on the back of a podcast. So just think about what it is you actually want to do. And don't just put down, okay, just make money, or I just want to be famous, or I just want to generate leads. Really drill down into it because it will make a big difference. Okay, so think about the what. Spend a good 20, 30 minutes at least just brainstorming what you actually want to do and really refine it. We've had people turn up to the studio before and they know they want to launch a podcast. Perhaps they've got some amazing people to speak to and all that kind of thing. But it's like, what's the end goal of this? Like, what's the long-term strategy? So just think about that. And allow that to provide context, a bit of flesh on the bones for everything else that's going to follow. So a little story to go hand in hand with this point to kind of prove it. We had a client come into the studio, they booked some studio time, and in the process of booking, Carl said, okay, right, just explain to me what you actually looking to do. Okay. And the reply was, well, I just want to be an influencer. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being an influencer, but like, what do you want to influence? Or how do you want to influence people? Do you want to live better, earn more? It's just such a broad thing to do, just to be an influencer, and so really dive into it and work out, what would success look like? If I was to fast forward 12 months, 2 years, like what would have to happen for your podcast to have been truly successful, right? And don't just think, okay, well, get 1,000 subs or 1 million views or anything like that. Like, is there anything within your business that can make it concrete, like something that we can measure, something that we can quantify? All right. So that's number 1. Moving on to number 2, the next most important thing, obviously, is the who. Who do you want to speak to? Because quite often we think, okay, I've got this amazing thing that I want to talk about. Everyone can use it. But the problem is if you're talking to everybody, actually, you just become part of the noise and you're talking to nobody. Lots of YouTube experts will tell you, really define who your target audience is. Now, And that's great if you're launching a YouTube channel, but for a podcast, you've got to remember that, people will tune into you to listen to conversations about a topic, about something that's perhaps going on in their life that they need help with, or a service that they're considering, or maybe they're tuning into you to reinforce their purchasing behavior in the future. So for example, if say I'm about to hire a lawyer and I think, right, well, who's the best lawyer in my area? And they happen to have a podcast. Well, through the podcast, you can actually get to know them and maybe like them and trust them just by listening to the podcast. So think about who it is you want to attract. Now, good marketing, and podcasting is part of marketing, should not only attract the right person, but they should repel the wrong person as well. So you want to make sure that who it is you're speaking to is very clear and defined, and you've thought about it so that you're not just talking to everybody. Think about the types of language they will use. Is there little bits of jargon? And I would kind of recommend that you don't go too much into like industry specific jargon, especially, if you think about a buyer's journey, and if they're just on the start of the journey and don't quite understand some of the lingo that's within your industry. But just think about some of the words that they might use. In my previous business, we was in the weight loss industry, and people would often talk about kickstarting a new habit, kickstarting, a new weight loss routine, and that's the word that quite often we used in our marketing to get people interested, because that's the conversation that's already going on in their mind. They're already thinking about, if I can just get away from home, get away from the kids, if I can get away from work and everything else and just kickstart something new, and I'll speak in their language. So think about who it is, how old they are, what jobs have they got, where can you find them, where will you be able to share your podcast once you've produced them, and if you imagine like the fishing analogy, like what pools are you going to fish in and what bait are you going to use, you're on the right track. Now, just going back slightly, one of the things I encourage you to do in the who part of this is to actually create a target personality, an avatar, if you like, of who that person is. And that will help, because when you're interviewing your guests or you're speaking to camera, you can imagine talking to that person. We did it recently with a client that comes in and books studio time, and they created this person, Sarah, and so now every time she records a video, she's talking to this fictional character, Sarah, who is presenting all the issues that she solves, and she kind of works with. So now we're going to do much more on each one of these in future videos. For now, we're just going to give you a very broad brush. So anyway, just get yourself pen and paper or the worksheet below and just work through it. Really define. And you know what? AI can help you with this as well. You put in there, okay, help me design, coach me to come up with a person, an ideal customer profile or an ideal listener profile, and see what you come up with. Okay, moving on then to number 3 is the what. With this, there's many, many different forms of podcast, a video podcast, maybe even a single talking head video like this, Zoom interviews. There's a ton of different stuff. On the street interviews, so many different ways. Just think about what you could do that would best suit not only your skills and what you like to do, but also perhaps the equipment you've got. If you've just got like a bit of a microphone and a mobile phone, you could do perhaps in the street interviews, or maybe if you've got a full setup, you might want to do guest interviews in person. Just think about like what it is you actually want to deliver, and that will help you design other things that we're going to come on to in a minute. And just spending a little time thinking about the what will also save you a lot of time, like working out the technical aspects of producing the podcast. So in the studio here, we've literally got tens of thousands of pounds worth of equipment. Well, you probably don't need that to kick off with. You might even get away with just your mobile phone and a cheap lapel microphone from Amazon. If you decided you want to do up to 4 in-person interviews, then you're going to need to spend a little bit more. But you don't need to do that if you're just doing Zoom interviews on a laptop and all that kind of thing. So just spend a bit of time and think about the what. Like, what are you going to be producing at the end of the recording? Okay, moving on to number 4 then. Can you guess what it is? Okay, it is the when. Now, the important thing about the when is there's 2 sides to it. There's when you're going to capture it, and then also when you're going to release it. And both can be quite important. So, for example, if you're going to do a podcast for busy mums, well, busy mums might be busy early in the morning, Monday morning. Therefore, is that the best time to kick it out? Similarly, if you're a busy mum yourself, quite often we do podcasts based on our own experiences, our own life. So if you're a busy mum as well, if you then try and set a recording time of Monday morning, chances are you're getting the kids ready and all that kind of stuff, and you're already on to a bit of a downer. So think about, when can you record it? And if you haven't got a lot of time, there's a couple of things that you could do to really, really help with this. We're going to go much deeper into this in future videos, but little things like batching the content that you create. So currently, Carl and I, we record on a Monday, and then from that single recording, we're producing about 7 or 8 long form videos, and then about up to 30 short form videos for different social media as well. Again, we're a little bit more advanced than this. We've been doing this for a couple of years. But just think about when you can actually squeeze it into your busy schedule, and also think about when can your potential guests, if you're having guests, can do it. When is best for you? Previously, we started off recording in the back room at my house. Well, we had to be very careful about when we recorded, because everyone else in the household was wanting to live, and they didn't want to be walking around on eggshells, unable to make noise, or perhaps, the gardener was outside trimming the gardener. And think about practically, when can you record this? And that will also help you think, do I need to be recording a couple of episodes at the same time? Or do I just want to do one a week until I kind of settle down into a routine? And then obviously when it comes to like distributing, like when is the best time for you to be publishing it? And sometimes it's just what we call a swag, a stupid wild ass guess. Thursday night seems like a good idea. I'll do that, and just get it out then. Just think about it. Let me give you an example. So our podcast is on rugby. So all the games, rugby, are at the weekend. So we want our videos to be landing and watched before the weekend starts. Therefore, we're recording on Monday. We release Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We might release, if there's a video that we've done on a topic that's not time sensitive, we might release that sort of Friday, Saturday, but that's the cycle that we do. So just thinking about the routine, what you're actually going to do, who you're going to be speaking to, can help you publish and distribute your content at the right time. The fifth one then is the how. The how really is like the process you're going to use in order to capture, to edit, to distribute, and then monitor and measure what's going on with your podcast. Really just sort of thinking like carving out some time. We have a group of solicitors that come and record a podcast every week. They've just booked a slot. Okay, Thursday morning, it's a relatively quiet time in their office. They can get away. A couple of them can come and record a podcast. Now, they actually hand the majority of their editing and distribution over to us. That's a service that we provide. Okay, but you might sort of thinking, well, how am I going to upload this to and send it off to an editor? How am I going to find the time to plug it into the computer and actually edit through it? Or am I going to do much editing at all? There's a bit of a trend emerging on YouTube and podcasts now where it's just pretty raw and ready, and you can just kind of fire it out as it is. Maybe that's best suited to your audience. Maybe not. We won't know until you launch it. So just think about the nuts and bolts, like practically. In order to record here, I need to make sure my day is clear of any other distractions and anything else going on, just so I can concentrate it. Or maybe I need to be taking notes, and really think about how you can simplify the process. You need as least obstacles in your way as possible. So in the past, when I've run other podcasts about a specific topic, I've set up like Google alerts in my email so that every day I'm getting a little bulletin coming through about news and current affairs within that topic. I can then pull a couple of those things out. I know then I can record later on that day. So just think about like how I'm actually going to do it. Okay, and then the final one, then number 6, is you actually publish. So you publish here, and then once you've published, you don't just switch off and think, okay, that's it. What I've got is a 3-part process for just making sure that you're optimizing your podcast and improving all the time. And remember, right back at the start, I said what we did in our current podcast at the start is very, very different to what we do now. But now we're seeing massive growth. At the start, we didn't. And we had to learn a load of lessons in the run up to it. And that is, you start off, and you need to be able to measure what is going on. Now, if you launch your podcast in YouTube, this makes it really, really easy for you. You get a load of analytics, a load of data. Now, it's really easy to get overwhelmed by that. We will do videos in the future about YouTube analytics and other bits of analytics. Okay, but you need some way of measuring what you're doing. Even if it's like the number of downloads, the number of views, it's just something to measure, because if we can measure it, we can improve it. The next thing I want to be able to do is obviously monitor, shocking writing, but monitor how the video is going, especially in the first couple of hours and perhaps even the first 24 hours, because again, you want to sort of see how things are going really, really quick. In the future, we're going to talk about how you can swap out thumbnails, mess around with titles and things like that to try and get better data and to optimize what your video is doing. We just get in, for now, just get in the habit of kind of keeping an eye on it. And well, I say, don't do that. I know you will. It's like that when you launch a podcast. All of a sudden, you just become obsessed with these numbers. And then once you've done that, it gives us the ability to modify what we're doing. And this is the process of optimizing your podcast or your YouTube channel, whatever it is you're using this advice for. So you measure it, you monitor what's going on, and it gives you the ability to modify. And then you run it again. You release another video, you measure, you monitor, you modify, you measure, you monitor, and you keep going in that circle. And that is how improvements are made. Our final piece on this, I just want to show you that what we do at Urban Flux Studios is we help you bypass all this and get you from A to B quicker, easier, and usually in a better format. So if that's something you want help with, give us a shout. The information's down in the description below. But just to recap then, so counterintuitively, there's a slightly different way that we suggest you start to think about your podcast, how you're going to launch it, how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, all that kind of stuff, okay? And these are the steps that we kind of recommend. I hope it's been helpful. Now, if you work through all this and you finally launch your first episode, you're really going to want to know about how this measure, monitor, and modify system works. And you can check out this video in order to learn more.